So welcome to the Southwest STEM Fest session on the 18th of June. I'd like to introduce you to Dawn and Jenny from Building Greater Exeter, who will be delivering today's session on Build Your Career in Construction. I'll hand it over to you guys.
Oh, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session today. Thank you, Gina, for the welcome, and thank you very much for joining us. I'm Dawn, I'm the project manager at Building Greater Exeter, and I'm joined by Jenny, our project coordinator. And Building Greater Exeter is a project that was set up to support the construction sector around employment and skills. And we're a partnership of local authorities, training providers, and construction partners. And we're very lucky to be joined by two of our partners today, BAM and SDS, who were very critical in the build of the design and build of the Nightingale Hospital in Exeter. And in terms of the support we offer, one of our goals is to inspire the future workforce. So today is all about sharing what a career in construction could offer you. And I'm going to be giving you a brief overview. Jenny is then going to be going through some myth busting about what a career in construction offers. And then we're going to show you a short video of the different careers that were involved in the design and build of the Nightingale Hospital. And then we're going to have a Q&A with two of the key people involved in that build. So as you go through the presentation today, please make a note of any questions, and we've got lots which we'll be answering at the end of this session. So why construction and the built environment? Well, get into a career in construction and you'll be joining an industry that's challenging, exciting, and rewarding. Construction is not only one of Britain's largest industries, it's also well respected around the globe. It's a dynamic, constantly changing environment, so your time might be split between the office and outdoors. And one thing is certain, in construction and the built environment, every day is different. So what could you be doing in a career in construction, the built environment? Well, the sector creates where we live, it creates where we work, where we shop, from historical and cultural buildings to connecting our cities and enabling our travel. Also, it's involved in protecting listed buildings and providing energy. So altogether, a fantastic industry, and an industry that provides you the opportunity to design, create, and build the places where you will live, work, and play in the future. Right, so a question, how many different job roles do you think there are in construction? 50 maybe? 100? There is actually over 170, maybe even more job roles. So depending on your interests and what you're good at, there's certainly going to be a job for you. And you can see on the screen there a number of just a selection of different job roles that are in construction and the built environment, from being a site engineer or quantity surveyor through to being an electrician, a scaffolder, a roofer, a joiner, an architect. And I'm sure if you have time to sit and look at that slide, you could think of many more. Today, we're focusing on STEM careers in construction and the built environment. And of course, design and management falls under that. So there's a number of different roles on the screen there, and design and planning roles could include an architect, which develops clients' ideas from concept through to the final design. Maybe you'd be interested in becoming a town planner. They manage the development of our cities, towns, and countryside, and ensure that our natural and built environments work together, focusing on community living. There are a number of different management roles. You could be a project manager, like Andy on our call today. They keep projects running efficiently by working out logical sequence of work to make best use of resources available, monitoring time, cost, and quality, and making any necessary adjustments. Or how about an engineering manager? They manage the design, installation, and maintenance of heating, air conditioning, and ventilation systems And James on the call will be able to answer questions on this sector today. Moving on to engineering and surveying, there are a number of different surveying roles. How about a quantity surveyor? Do you like spending money or other people's money? And are you good at maths? Well, a quantity surveyor manages the costs for a building project from the early stages right up to completion and ensure a project meets legal and quality standards. There are also a number of different engineering roles. A civil engineer, for example, designs and constructs the infrastructure which support our daily life, roads, railways, and bridges. And then women obviously play a really important part in construction. And two women who work for our project partners, Sophie, who's a graduate design manager at Kier, well, she works on the design and build within the design and build team and manages and collaborates with the design team during the pre-construction phase of a project, so before a building's even been built. And Sophie, from SDS Engineering Consultants, is a mechanical engineer, and she designs everything that makes buildings come to life. So lights, electric, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and renewable energies. So what makes construction an exciting career? Well, it doesn't matter if your skills are in mathematics or if you prefer being outdoors. There is a career to match every skill set. And people who work in construction often say that variety is one of the main things they enjoy most about their job, with no 2 days being the same. There's plenty of opportunities for travel in construction and work abroad. A lot of UK construction companies, for example, work in Dubai. And construction is one of the few industries where you enter at lots of different stages and ages with varying qualifications. And you have the option of working your way up to a senior level while earning and learning your way to the top. And job satisfaction is key. What better than to look at a building and think, I built that, or I designed it, or I played a really important part in the construction of that project. And that's something that you have for the future and to share with your friends and family. And it also offers you the freedom to start your own business. And there's a high level of self-employment in the construction industry. And once trained and qualified, you could become your own boss and even an employer. So the future really is yours in construction. And hopefully this has just given you a taster of the number of different roles available. In terms of routes into construction, there are a number of different ways that you could join the industry. You could join on as an apprenticeship, and you could earn money as you learn. And apprenticeships start all the way from level 2 all the way up to degree level 7. You could study a course at college or university. Job centre is another way of finding roles in construction, maybe through a recruitment agency, a trainee scheme, or work experience. And work experience is a wonderful way to go and find out if a role really is right for you. You get to experience being potentially on site and get a feel of what the environment is like before you undertake a job or study in the area. And some interesting facts and figures about construction to conclude my section. Well, there are, as we mentioned earlier, over 170 different job roles. So depending on your interests, there'll be a job for you. In terms of employment, well, the sector employs 3 million people, which is about 8% of the working population. In construction, average salaries are one of the highest sectors in the UK. And focusing on the Southwest, we need over 32,000 new entrants in the next 5 years. And this growth is spread across a range of managerial, professional, technical and skilled trade occupations. Right, I'm now going to hand over to Jenny, who's going to do a bit of myth busting with you.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, like a lot of us, there are many misconceptions about working in the construction industry, and here are a few facts that blow those myths out of the water. Some people feel that working in construction is dangerous and bad for your health. In fact, that couldn't be further from the truth. The UK construction industry is the safest in Europe. Everybody has a role to play in taking responsibility for health and safety. The noise, dust, dirt and dangerous materials are all carefully controlled by safe working systems, safety signs and risk assessments. And most jobs in construction will require everyone to hold a health and safety training card called the CSCS card. The next one is the construction is a dirty industry that's bad for the environment. As we're aware, we're all very conscious of the environment, so let's blow that one out of the water. Many construction careers are focused on green technologies and sustainability, making sure that the environment is protected during the construction process. Modern buildings today can have a positive impact on communities that use them. For example, a new housing estate might feature a community playground gym that all housing estate residents can use. I've certainly seen them, I'm sure you have too. We've also seen the solar panels on lots of houses and buildings, and that is producing electricity. So the energy use and the use of harmful materials, ecology, pollution and waste management and water management are just some of the considerations that go into the design of new buildings. The use of solar panels will reduce the energy bills, or a bridge across a newly constructed motorway allows wildlife such as hedgehogs and badgers to cross safely. And finally, construction is just jobs for the boys. This isn't true either anymore. There are over 320,000 women that work in construction in the UK. They are employed in lots of interesting and varied roles, including civil engineers and architects. And 92% of all females in the construction industry are in professional careers, again, like architects, civil engineers, and quantity surveyors. I hope those facts are of interest to you. I'm sure they are, and I'll hand you back to Dawn.
Thanks, Jenny, very much. Now, Gina's going to set up a video that we have to show you now regarding the Nightingale Hospital in Exeter. And that was built in just 57 days, which really is an amazing achievement to accommodate patients with COVID-19 during the global pandemic. And it's now being used as a diagnostic centre and supports facility for the RD&E. And this short film has been created to showcase the variety of careers in the Nightingale's construction and how different roles are being used to build a prominent structure in the local area.
This was an empty shed, leaking, nothing on the outside. Within six and a half weeks, we have built a 116-bed mini general hospital that is up to standards suitable for ICU units, theatres. To see the camaraderie from all the people here. Sparkies are helping brickies, brickies are helping plumbers, carpenters are helping. Everyone has helped each other. It has been such a pleasure to work here, actually.
The Nightingale Hospital is a major infrastructure project being delivered from initial design to accepting its first patients in just 5 weeks. Unlike other Nightingale hospitals created to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, this is a hybrid hospital rather than purely a field hospital, and includes all the facilities you would find in a permanent acute hospital. There have been over 300 people on site working around the clock, but speed doesn't mean that we've relaxed our quality of compliance standards.
I was the site supervisor at Nightingale with around about 60 electricians. My role at Nightingale was dealing with the construction side of our in-store and managing the guys on site. We are very keen on apprentices, between the 15-16 years I've been with TClarke, I have had many apprentices which have gone on to do great things in the company and still are. Nightingale was a mammoth of a task. It's one job I will always remember for my career. I'm very proud the way everyone come together and managed to turn it around in 7 weeks. We had about 60 electricians on site at the time. The way the guys come together with the main contractor, BAM, was unbelievable, and it's something that I'll always remember.
Services Design Solution, or our construction consultants, we specialise in the design of mechanical and electrical systems for buildings. We've got 3 offices across the peninsula, 1 in Exeter, 1 in Plymouth and 1 in Bristol. As well as being one of the largest consultants in the region, with the resources available to respond to the urgency of the project, we're well recognised as being healthcare specialists and have the technical expertise to deliver something that's abnormal facility in these current times.
So the Exeter Nightingale project was a hybrid Nightingale project, so it was a bit different to the other facilities around the country. It was more of a hospital than a field hospital, which was typically the Nightingale Hospital. It provided 116 beds and associated facilities around it for change facilities, staff facilities, etc., to operate as a standalone hospital. My role personally, I was the lead mechanical engineer for the project and ran the mechanical team along with my colleague John Bradbury, who ran the electrical side, and both John and I were based on site for the majority of the project. So from an SDS perspective, we had over 25 people working on the project across its timescale. That ranged from document controllers / administrators, managing the information flow, to apprentices, graduates, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, up through to associates and directors and right up to the managing director. So the project was extremely fast turnaround. It was 57 days to design and construct the Nightingale facilities. There was a lot of, well, we pretty much worked 7 days a week. Certainly the guys on site did, and we worked a number of weekends, including bank holidays, with design teams all working remotely at this time, of course, as well, because it was in the middle of the COVID outbreak. We're very pleased that the project has been awarded via the SIBSE COVID-19 Achievement Award, which is a recognition of the work that went into it, along with other schemes around the country. We also had people as part of the 3D modelling that we do, so we had people drawing everything in 3D as we were designing it and going along. And we had administration skills as well, which were, you know, there was so much, the information flow was so vast and so quick, it needed a lot of that support to make sure everything was understood and kept under control. So there's quite a wide variation of skill sets used within our business, let alone the whole project.
My name's Fraser Nye. I'm an electrical apprentice for TClarke. I'm doing a level 3 electrical apprenticeship. With my apprenticeship, I do a mixture of on-site and off-site work. I do theory-based and practical at college. We have a workshop down there. We do our testing and all our exams, practical exams. I was coming up to my last year at school, and I was very interested in construction, so I chose to do a college course on construction, and TClarke gave me an apprenticeship. I was always interested in the construction industry, mainly the electrical and mechanical side of it. TClarke gave me the opportunity to learn the trade, and I can't wait to further my career with TClarke. What I enjoy most is I'm very fascinated in learning, and I'm very hands-on, and I really enjoy doing that. I'm interested in, you know, how it's all constructed, how we all do it, and I just find it all very fascinating, and I get a lot of enjoyment from creating something. My role at Nightingale Hospital was putting in containment and wiring, and just helping and assisting all the qualified electricians with their tasks. I was involved in the LV side of the construction, as well as second fixing all the containment and sockets. We didn't come across many big issues. I think we all worked together very well as a team. I would say personally, what I found the hardest was trying to learn and keep up with all the electricians, as it was a very fast-paced job, as we had to have the job complete in 7 weeks. So I would recommend an apprenticeship. I think it's a very good experience. I think it very, teaches you about your work ethic, working the long hours, doing your portfolio. It takes a lot of time to complete your course, as it's 3 to 4 years. But there's a lot of satisfaction from, creating something, installing. Everyone on site's very good, and I think it's, it's a very good thing to get into.
And now we're very lucky to have Andy Whitnell, who's a project manager on the Nightingale Hospital, here with us today. And you saw him in the video then, and he's going to give you an overview of his role and a little bit more information about the project. So thank you, Andy, for joining us today, and over to you.
Hi, good morning. Yes, I'm Andy Whitnell. I was the project manager for BAM Construction on the Nightingale project. So effectively, as a project manager, you have overall responsibility for delivering the scheme, but not only the actual build on site, but all the sort of pre-design stuff. You have an overview of everything. So I wouldn't say I'm a master of everything, a master of nothing, but I do have over 30 years experience within the construction industry. So on the Nightingale, this was a scheme like no other scheme that I've ever been involved with in my life. It was probably, if I was looking back at it today, I would say you would struggle to build it within 57 weeks, let alone 57 days. At the time, it wasn't what you couldn't do, it was what you could do. So the scheme had to be designed and built around what materials were available. So the workforce and the designers, we were always in close collaboration, looking at what is available, what can we do with what is available. So you sometimes have to make calls. On this scheme, you had to make the calls within seconds, minutes, because every minute counted. So once the job got started, as I said, I was in overall control, and the key on that scheme is program management. Normally, on a normal job, you would review your program once a week, possibly twice a week. On this, it was sometimes hourly. And it's all about getting ready for the next person to come in. So it's no good finishing 90% of something. You've got to finish 100% so the next person can come in. At peak, there were 468 people working on site. In total, over 2,500 people were on site. And a job like, it was 2,500 people were involved on the scheme at various times through the design and the build. A scheme like this, you're looking to save time all the time. Minutes count. So, but you're not looking at saving one item that would save 20 hours. You're looking at the 1, 2, 3 minute items that are carried out 1,000 times. That is how you make the time up on a job like this. But the roles involved on a scheme like this, it's absolutely phenomenal. So hospitals, they're very highly serviced buildings. So there's a lot of mechanical, electrical engineering involved on it. But it started before we even started construction. We had the drone boys in, we had the topographical engineers in. So you have to map the building. You get a 3D image of the map of the building, so you can actually fit everything in correctly. For BIM, a scheme, even though it was done at a tremendous pace, it was still sort of 3D integrated, because we couldn't afford to make mistakes on the build and have to go back and rework it. So it's a constantly evolving scheme, and my job as a project manager is a constantly evolving job. You sort of generally, I don't look at what is happening now, I look at what is happening in the future. On the Nightingale, the future is only minutes away. So I tend to see my role as I get everything ready for everyone else to take over. So the site managers deal with the day-to-day running of a scheme normally, whilst I make sure people are geared up in the future. So once an area is ready for them, they are straight in there. Normally, people would start work on a Monday of a new phase of the building. So someone might finish plastering the walls on the Thursday, then the painters would start the following Monday. On the Nightingale, if the wall was ready for them at 4 o'clock, they needed to be there at 4 o'clock. And it was every hour of the day, at times every minute of the day was programmed. So not only was this an exceptional build at any time, 57 days, as I said earlier, should have been 57 weeks. During a national pandemic, or international pandemic, and a national emergency, things got a bit harder. We had to we were the forefront of the COVID building practices. And it's all about just looking at where people are. The coordination was absolutely immense. So the building itself, when we started, was 3,300 square meters. That was the existing home base with 4 walls and a leaky roof. We had to demolish parts of it before we could start. We started building on day 6, the new services or the new walls going in, and the actual figures, when you start looking at it, is phenomenal. So this was unlike any Nightingale you've ever seen on TV before. This isn't your XL where it's 1,000 beds. This is a mini general hospital, 5 wards, each ward holding 24 patients. So the benefit of that is each ward can hold different types of patients. So the initial Nightingales, everybody was sort of unconscious, and it didn't really matter who was next to who. This facility could be segregated, so you could have female wards, male wards, older adults wards, and it's also that different wards had different degrees of serviceability in them. So the high intensive care units were exactly the same as intensive care you'd get in a general hospital. The volumes of air involved, there was 24 air handling units. It was just immense, and for me, it was the most rewarding project I've ever done in my life. As I said earlier, it started with 3,300 square meters. By the end, it was over 8,000 square meters of building. We more than doubled the size of it in 57 days. After watching that video, just look at the time scales, and it was immense. And as I said, I loved it. Would I build it again? Too right, I would. I would be back there and do it again. It was the most rewarding thing, just seeing the camaraderie between all the trades, and everyone had that "we will do it" attitude. And that's what I love about construction.
Thanks, Andy. And I agree, construction is a fantastic industry where everyone comes together and works as a team, and collaboration is key. And you know, what an amazing achievement to have that building up and running and functioning. And now, obviously, it can be used as a hospital as well. So that really is something. And Andy very kindly shared some fun facts about the build, and we're going to go through those now. And then we have some more questions for you, Andy. So Jenny, if you're happy to jump to the next screen, we have some questions. And the first one is, How many hours of construction went into the build of the Exeter Nightingale over its 8-week build period? So do you think it was A, 1 million, B, 170,000, or C, 100,000? So make your guess. And Andy, the right answer is
170,000.
100.
When you break that down, that's 20,000 hours a week. So it's
that is incredible. That is quite something, yes. And the next question: if the Nightingale was built in normal times, how long would it take to build? So would it be A, in excess of 60 weeks, B, in excess of 40 weeks, or C, in excess of 52 weeks? So select the answer you think is right. And Andy, the right answer is?
In excess of 60 weeks.
And that really is something, isn't it? To achieve so much in such a short space of time. An amazing achievement. And Jenny, the next one. If you laid out, I think this is my favourite one, if you laid out all the cabling that was installed within the Nightingale project, how many times would it wrap around the world? Is it A, 2 times, B, 11 times, or C, 5 times? So choose your answer. And Andy, the right answer is?
Yeah, this is quite an amazing fact, actually. The answer is 11 times. It was over 250,000 miles of cables that were installed on that scheme.
Wow, that just trying to picture all those cables, that's immense, isn't it? It really is. Have you ever worked on a project before that's needed quite as many cables?
I have, but that was £125 million, 35,000 square metre project, not a 116 bed, 7 or 8,000 square metres. So the other scheme that did have more than that was more than 3 times the size.
That is quite something. And Jenny?
And it took 3 years to build as well, actually.
Well, and another fun fact, how many bottles of water were drunk during the build? Is it A, over 10,000, B, over 100,000, or C, over 50,000? And Andy?
The answer on this one is B. Now, there's 2 reasons that we supplied all the water in bottles. The one was to avoid the touch points, so where transmission of COVID would happen if any of the workforce were infected. As it was, no one was infected. And this 100,000 bottles of water, I talked about earlier, saving time. By having bottles of water, the workers we put these bottles all around the building. So if the worker wanted the drink, there was a bottle of water within 10 metres of him. That saved them walking from where they're working to the canteen, getting a drink and walking back. So probably total time of that, 3 minutes. You save 3 minutes once, you save 3 minutes. You save 3 minutes 100,000 times. That's an awful lot of hours.
Wow, that really is, isn't it? It's amazing just to think that detail and how much it can impact the project. And finally, Jenny, I think we have one more. How many scissor lifts were on site at peak? There's a scissor lift, if I can say it, the scissor lift in the picture there. Is it A, over 130, B, over 75, or C, over 200? Andy, the correct answer is?
And the answer on this one is A. It was over 130
wow.
scissor lifts on site. It was, because there is time-lapse videos, and when you actually look at the time-lapse and you just see scissor lifts up and down flying around, it's absolutely amazing.
Well, that's quite something. And just being able to source all those scissor lifts as well must have been quite a task.
Oh yeah, they were coming in from all over the UK. It was, and again, on a normal job, you wouldn't have that many. You'd probably have 20.
Yeah.
Because the speed we were going at, everyone had to be working all the time. And again, I mentioned saving time. When we built built the building, we split it into 5 separate wards. Now, the doors between the wards, we actually oversized them in height. So rather than your standard 6-foot door or 2-meter door, we put in 3-meter high doors. Now that meant the scissor lifts could drive straight from one ward to another. So because of the COVID, every worker who was working at height had his own individual scissor lift. So you couldn't share scissor lifts and you couldn't go from one scissor lift to another because of the risk of cross-contamination. So again, people are driving all around. Every time someone drove through those doors, on a normal scheme, they'd have to fold the guardrails down, drive it through, put the guardrails back up. Again, that's a 4-minute activity. 4 minutes, not a lot, but when you do 4 minutes, 100 or 1,000, 10,000 times, which is probably the time, all of a sudden, that's another 40,000 minutes you saved. So, as I said, it was all about finding the 1, 2, 3-minute activities and cancelling them out.
Wow, that's a whole job in itself, isn't it? Working out all those efficiencies. Well, thank you for sharing those fun facts. I have got some questions. I'm just looking at them. I think you've answered a few of them. But personally, Andy, how did you get into construction, and what do you enjoy most about your role? So for me, I a few years ago, I did O-levels and A-levels as they were then, or GCSE. I think they're still called A-levels, are they? They are. And then went to university and did a civil engineering degree. So when I came out of university, I was first an engineer on site, and then sort of over the following 20-odd years, I was engineer doing all the setting out and all the quality checks, then became a site manager, senior site manager, and I've been a project manager now since 2005. So yeah, so it's been 16 years in this role. And that's great. And I think that one of the best things about the construction sector is you can join in one role and then there's plenty of opportunities to move around if there's another role that you enjoy more, and you can have a lot of variety, can't you? And obviously in your job, one day is never the same. But again, the sector offers that opportunity to try different jobs and have different careers within the sector. Oh, it does. It's an immensely rewarding industry to be in. As you said earlier, it's, what do I love about it? I just love the camaraderie. I love that you have to challenge yourself every day. And it's a different environment. Me having to go to an office and look at the same wall or look out the same window every day, I don't think I could do it. I just love no day is the same. It's changing. It's just, yeah, me personally, I love construction, and I hope many of you actually come into it. Thanks, Andy. Well, your passion really does shine through. And thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here. And we're now going to hand over to James, and he's going to answer a few questions for us. So welcome, James. James is the Regional Director at SDS, and they specialise in the design of mechanical and electrical engineering systems for buildings. And to start James off, we've got a little 3 questions for you today. And Jenny, if we can move on to that slide. So which do you think of these facts are true? And can you guess which one isn't? So, do you think SDS design buildings to be 0 or negative carbon? Or B, design structure to stop the building falling down? Or C, they are mechanical, electrical and physics engineers in our business? So I'm going to hand over to James now, who will be able to give you the answer.
Hello, thank you, Dawn, and yeah, thanks, Andy. Brought back some real memories from the from our 57 days of building the Nightingale, the way you talked through it. So the answer in terms of the question is B is the one that's incorrect. So it's really important to have a structure that holds up the building. That role is undertaken by the structural engineer. We are the building services engineers. We do the heating, ventilation, lighting in terms of hospitals, medical gases, piped services, water and gas, etc. So one of the key things on the Nightingale was the ventilation and the protection of the staff. Andy mentioned the number of air handling units. They are big fans, effectively, that move air around the building, and it was critical that we protected the staff and contained the COVID virus within the ward areas and didn't allow it to spread around the whole facility. So that was a key part of the design and a challenging part of the design, along with resilience of the services to make sure that whether a power cut, for example, we had backup generators. If any piece of equipment went down, we had backup equipment to make sure the whole facility could keep running. So it was quite a challenge in terms of engineering services. And then you add in the 57 days, it was a different experience from a design perspective, certainly.
Wow, thank you. And in terms of SDS and your role, how did you get into construction, James? And what do you enjoy most about your role?
So in terms of my role, I run the Exeter office as a regional director, and I got into the construction industry a little bit by accident, to be honest. I did A-levels, and then I went to university and studied mechanical engineering. I then left university and started looking for jobs. My mates were designing components for fighter jets, the Eurofighter at the time, and I found it was a local opportunity from mechanical engineering, and I went along for the interview and got the job. Probably should have been a bit more prepared for the interview than I was, but that's the reality of what happened. And I, for a little while, I was a little unsure, because comparing to my friends and comparing to studying where you do lots of theoretical stuff, building services engineering was a bit more practical. But what really changed it for me was learning to kind of love buildings and love architecture and the engineering challenges you get. You know, the Nightingale isn't very architectural, but from an engineering perspective, it's extremely challenging. But you also get to work on one-off houses or university buildings or whatever. Lots of buildings are very architectural, and it's quite a different skill associated with that. Almost a certain amount of art, I suppose, in that, particularly with lighting and what have you.
Great, thank you. And for the young people who are on the call today, if you enjoy playing Minecraft and other computer games, are there jobs in construction that would benefit from these skills?
Definitely. There is a thing called BIM, Building Information Management, which is part of that is creating a database so that when you hand the building over, people understand and can use computer systems to understand what's in there and what needs to, and when things need to be maintained. But also a big part of that is the three-dimensional design. Andy mentioned this on the Nightingale scheme. Despite the speed of the project, we had to still draw it in 3 dimensions, or certain parts of it, I would say, we had to draw in 3 dimensions, and we prioritized the complicated, highly serviced areas. And it's a bit like Andy said, you were looking for ways that you could save a bit of time. So we were working very closely with the guys on site, and we wouldn't draw everything because there wasn't time, but we knew and trusted the people on site. We'd go and have a conversation rather than do the drawings. You'd have a conversation with them and say, this is the principle of what to do, for example, drainage. Whereas we focused our time on drawing the 3-dimensional elements for the ventilation, because it was critical that we maintained the pressure regime within the building. In terms of, so all of that links to digital skills. And we are employing not just engineers, but we're also employing computer scientists within our business, because it's a complex area, and it's a quickly changing area of business. Using Revit and software such as Revit, Dynamo, etc. In terms of Minecraft, I actually play that a bit with my daughter. She's far better than I am at it, but it's really, it gets people thinking. And my daughter and I created this house built into this rock face within Minecraft, and we were putting floors in and windows, and yeah, it was because my daughters see and hear what I do, and knew very much what I was doing with the Nightingale, because I wasn't around very much at the time. So it gives them a links into what I do. So yeah, I think it's a great game, and really useful for linking to the construction industry.
Yes, thanks. My sons enjoy it too, and definitely that is something that, you know, they might not think a career in construction. They can actually, the skills they're building, even though they're young now, and they're both at primary school, they're actually helping them with their career in the future.
Oh, definitely.
And in terms of different STEM careers at SDS, are there any others that you'd like to talk about that you haven't mentioned already today?
Yeah, so probably mentioned a few of these, but so mechanical engineering is what I did. So typically heating, ventilation, air conditioning, pipe services. Electrical engineering, which is lighting, power supplies, CCTV, access control into buildings, etc. We've got building physics engineers. So they're the people that model the buildings, and you can model natural ventilation. So you model when windows are open and when they're closed, and then how hot does the building get and how stuffy does it get, as well as doing the energy modeling. Part of the question earlier was about producing zero carbon buildings, and it's very important. Well, it's always been important, but it's more relevant, and more people are talking about it, thankfully, now. We're focusing a lot more on energy and reducing energy use. That's part of the building physics. But I'd also like to say, as a business, we have wide range of roles as well. So we have people, you need people that can run the business, both financially and operationally. We have marketing roles as well. So it's it's very wide ranging, even within our business.
Okay, great. And you touched on sustainability there. And how would you say that the construction industry can support the future of our planet?
I think it's a critical role. I think, I don't have a figure to quote you, but I think it's a significant proportion of the CO2 is emitted from buildings. A lot of it is the existing building stock, and that is still a challenge that the construction industry is trying to work through, and putting insulation on the outside of buildings, or replacing your boiler in your house with a air source heat pump. I think, yeah, it's a really exciting time in the industry. We're undertaking calculations specifically of how much energy the building is going to use. There are sort of government guidance calculations, but there's also an additional calculation which we're seeing lots of clients are interested in now, to give a more realistic use of the energy. But we're also, as a construction industry, looking at what's called embedded carbon. So that's the carbon within the product that goes into the building. So a wooden structure has low embedded carbon, and then a concrete structure has a high embedded carbon. But it's not quite as simple as that, because a concrete structure is there for hundreds of years if you reuse it properly, and a wooden structure possibly isn't. So it's a really interesting part, and it depends on clients' needs and project needs and which ones you choose. But it's I'm really pleased to see it being more relevant within the industry and more people interested in it. And yeah, I think it's a great step forward, but plenty of challenges within there still to resolve.
Excellent, thank you. And I agree. And I think for young people who are keen on protecting the environment, construction really does offer them a wonderful career, because they can really have a big impact now by working on a career and everything we build and create and design in the future.
Absolutely, and we need we need some new thinking. We need new ideas. We need adoption of new systems and processes. And much like Andy's reference to the saving the minutes here, it's that kind of thinking that you need that to reduce the energy as well. So yeah, I think it's great.
Oh, well, thank you, James. That brings my questions to a close. And thank you both to yourself and Andy for such an amazing achievement in delivering the Nightingale Hospital, which continues to be a really valuable resource for the local community as well. So thank you both very much for everything you've done and for joining us today. We really appreciate it. So finally, hopefully that has given you an overview of what a career in construction could offer and the variety of roles, particularly STEM roles. If you'd like further information, please go to the Building Greater Exeter website. We have loads of resources on there, including our education hub, which is broken down by age. You can click on the one that's appropriate for you, and there's lots of videos, quizzes, resources and information that will help you discover which career in construction could be right for you, or information on how to join the industry. We also have a new resource, which is our construction training directory. This brings together all the local training courses in the local area. So if, for example, you're interested in bricklaying, you could click on the link and it'll take you through and provide you all the opportunities for apprenticeships, trainees, courses in that area. So finally, thank you very much for your attention. Go Construct have lots of information which we've used throughout our presentation today. I really encourage you to go to their website to find out more, as well as visiting ours. And that just leaves me to thank you all very much for your time and attention today. Thank you so much to Andy from BAM and James from SDS for joining us, and also to Jenny and Gina too. We hope that you'll go onto the website and find out more and consider a career in construction. Thank you all very much.